I was always the black sheep of the family, the one who didn't fit in, the one they quietly ignored. When my relatives threw their annual party, I wasn't invited, as expected. They didn't need me there, they thought. Their world was made of wealth, status, and connections. But what they didn't know was that everything they had, every luxury, every grand gesture, was because of me. I was the one who signed their checks, the one whose success had funded their lavish lives, the one whose sacrifices had built their empire. I was the silent benefactor, invisible yet essential. When they finally realized who I was, their faces changed, but not out of gratitude. It was fear. Suddenly, they needed me. Suddenly, they wanted me. But it was too late. The party was over, and so was my loyalty. Now, the tables were turned, and I was the one in control. The mahogany desk in my corner office gleamed under the afternoon sun streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. I signed another check, $50,000 for Uncle Richard's business venture, though we both knew it would end up financing his gambling habits and his wife's shopping sprees. My pen moved across the paper with practiced ease, the weight of irony heavy in each stroke. "Miss Chen, your 3 o'clock is here," my assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. "Send them in, Patricia." I tacked the check into an envelope, addressing it to the same P.O. box I'd been using for the past 8 years. Anonymous. Untraceable. Just the way I'd designed it. My name is Sophia Chen, 35 years old, CEO of Chen Technologies International. But to my family, I was just Sophie, the awkward girl who'd rather tinker with computers than attend cotillion, the disappointment who chose Silicon Valley over the family's traditional businesses, the black sheep who'd somehow failed by succeeding on her own terms. The meeting flew by in a blur of quarterly projections and market analyses. By the time my CFO left, the sun was setting, painting the San Francisco skyline in shades of amber and rose. I reached for my phone, scrolling through social media with the masochistic curiosity that had become my evening ritual. There it was. Aunt Margaret's Facebook post, getting ready for the annual Chen Family Gala. So blessed to have such a wonderful, successful family. #family first, #grateful. The photos showed the sprawling Napa Valley estate I'd secretly purchased for them 5 years ago, decorated with thousands of twinkling lights. Cousins posed in designer gowns and tuxedos, their smiles as polished as the champagne flutes they held. Uncle James stood proudly beside his new Bentley, the one I'd arranged to appear in his driveway last Christmas with a note claiming it was from a grateful business partner. I zoomed in on each face, searching for something I knew I wouldn't find. Me. Not a single photo, not a single mention. The invitation that never came wasn't a surprise, but the sting remained fresh, like a paper cut that refused to heal. My phone buzzed. A text from my younger brother, Dylan, the only family member who still acknowledged my existence. "Sophie, you seeing this? They're really going all out this year." I typed back, "I see it." "Let me guess, my invitation got lost in the mail again?" You know how they are. Mom's been telling everyone you're too busy with your little computer job to attend anyway. Little computer job. If only they knew that my little computer job generated more revenue in a month than their combined inherited businesses did in a year. If only they knew that every lavish party, every new car, every business bailout came from the fortune I'd built from nothing. It's fine, Dylan. I have work to do anyway. It's not fine, and you know it. You deserve better. I'll talk to you later. I set the phone aside and returned to the stack of financial documents on my desk. The Chen Family Trust, the elaborate financial structure I'd created to funnel money to them without revealing my identity. Bank statements, property deeds, investment portfolios. All bearing the name of a shell company, with me as the invisible puppeteer pulling the strings. 8 years ago, when I'd made my first million, I'd tried to share my success with them. I'd shown up to Christmas dinner with gifts and job offers for struggling cousins. The response? Snide comments about new money and selling out to tech brothers. Aunt Margaret had actually laughed when I'd offered to help with her mortgage. Sweet Sophie, thinking she can save us all with her laptop. How adorable. That was the last family gathering I'd attended. But even as they'd pushed me away, sneering at my success, I couldn't let them fail. Call it twisted loyalty or pathetic need for connection, but I'd started helping them secretly. A mysterious benefactor who paid off debts, funded ventures, and ensured the Chin family maintained their precious status. The irony wasn't lost on me. They celebrated their wealth at parties I wasn't invited to, in homes I'd bought, with money I'd earned. Every toast to their success was unknowingly a toast to the black sheep they'd cast aside. Patricia knocked and entered. "Miss Chin, I'm heading out. Do you need anything else?" "No, thank you." "Have a good weekend." "You too. Try not to work too late." I smiled at her concern. "I'll try." As the office emptied and darkness settled over the city, I remained at my desk, staring at the latest check request. This time from Cousin Victoria, $100,000 for her new boutique. The same Victoria who'd told everyone at last year's gala that I was probably living in some sad studio apartment, coding away my youth. I signed the check, each letter of my signature a small act of defiance. They thought they didn't need me. They thought I was nothing. But every single thing they had, every moment of their glittering lives, existed because of me. My phone lit up with another notification. A video from the party, already in full swing. Champagne toasts and tinkling laughter. Uncle Richard giving a speech about the strength of family bonds and how the Chens always stood together. Always stood together. Except for one. I closed my laptop and gathered my things. Tomorrow, I'd continue the charade. Tomorrow, I'd sign more checks and maintain more lies. But tonight, as my family celebrated without me in the mansion I'd bought them, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had to change. The elevator descended in silence, carrying me away from my empire of glass and steel. In the parking garage, my Tesla waited, modest compared to the luxury cars I'd gifted my relatives. I'd learned long ago that visible success only invited their scorn. As I drove home to my empty penthouse, one thought echoed in my mind: how long could I keep playing the invisible benefactor to people who didn't even want me at their table? The answer, I feared, was waiting for me at this year's party. Because this time, something felt different. This time, the secrets I'd kept for 8 years were starting to feel heavier than the checks I signed. And secrets, I'd learned in the corporate world, had a way of revealing themselves at the worst possible moments. The morning after the party photos, I woke to 17 missed calls. Not from family, they never called, but from my accountant, Marcus. My stomach tightened as I dialed him back. "Sophia, we have a problem," he said without preamble. "Someone's been digging into the Chin family trust transactions." I sat up, instantly alert. "Who?" "I don't know yet, but they've submitted formal inquiries to 3 different banks. They're trying to trace the source of the funds." My mind raced through possibilities. After 8 years of careful anonymity, why now? How much do they know? Nothing concrete yet. The shell companies are holding, but if they keep pushing, they'll find me. I finished the sentence, already reaching for my laptop. "Send me everything you have. Every inquiry, every document request. Already in your inbox." "Sophia, maybe it's time to know." I cut him off. "Not yet." After ending the call, I spent the next 3 hours reviewing the data. The inquiries were sophisticated, systematic, someone who understood financial structures. My phone buzzed with a text from Dylan. "You need to see what's happening at Mom and Dad's house. Drama Central." I'd been avoiding my parents' social media, but curiosity won. Their Facebook Live showed chaos. Aunt Margaret was screaming at Uncle Richard while Cousin Victoria sobbed dramatically on the couch. Through the noise, I caught fragments: money stopped, bills due, mysterious benefactor. My blood ran cold. I hadn't stopped anything, but several of the automatic transfers were flagged for review due to the inquiries. A temporary hold that to them must seem like financial apocalypse. My phone rang. Dylan. Sophie, it's insane here. Someone told them their benefactor might be pulling support. Uncle Richard is convinced it's connected to some business deal gone wrong. Aunt Margaret thinks it's one of Dad's competitors trying to ruin them. Are Mom and Dad okay? Define okay. Mom's having a breakdown about the country club membership. Apparently, the payment bounced. Dad's on the phone with his lawyer. I closed my eyes. One small hiccup and their house of cards was already shaking. Dylan, I need you to do something for me. Can you find out who started asking questions about the money? Way ahead of you. It's Victoria's new boyfriend, Nathan. Apparently, he's some hotshot financial analyst. He got curious about how the family maintains their lifestyle when none of the businesses are actually that profitable. Nathan. I'd seen him in the party photos, sharp eyes, calculated smile. The kind of person who noticed things others missed. What else do you know about him? Investment banker, Harvard MBA, comes from old money himself. Victoria's been bragging about him for weeks. Says he's going to help modernize the family finances. Of course. An outsider with the skills to unravel what I'd built. Thanks for the heads up. Sophie, maybe this is a sign. Maybe it's time they knew the truth. I'll handle it. I ended the call and immediately contacted Marcus. I need you to resume all transfers immediately. Make it look like a banking error. Sophia, that's just a band-aid. If this Nathan keeps digging, then I'll deal with Nathan. The rest of the day blurred between damage control and strategic planning. I authorized emergency funds to cover the missed payments, created new layers of financial obscurity, and researched everything I could about Nathan Blackwood. By evening, I had a complete profile. He wasn't just smart, he was ambitious. The kind of person who saw opportunity in everything, including his girlfriend's mysteriously wealthy family. His LinkedIn showed a pattern of strategic relationships, each girlfriend coincidentally connected to major business deals. My phone buzzed. Another family Facebook post, this time from Victoria, so blessed to have Nathan in my life. He's already helping the family sort through some financial confusion. Can't wait for everyone to see his brilliant plans at next week's emergency family meeting. Emergency family meeting. The words sent a chill down my spine. I pulled up the family group calendar, the one I still had access to because no one remembered I existed. Sunday, 2 p.m., at the Napa estate. Subject, securing our financial future. Patricia knocked and entered with a stack of contracts. These need your signature before Monday. I barely glanced at them. Patricia, I need you to clear my schedule for Sunday afternoon. Of course. What should I put down? Personal matter. She left without questions, one of the many reasons I valued her. I turned back to my computer, staring at Nathan's photo. He had that hungry look I recognized from countless boardrooms. The look of someone who wouldn't stop until they got what they wanted. My phone rang. An unknown number. Hello? Ms. Chin? This is Nathan Blackwood. I believe we need to talk. My pulse quickened. I don't believe we've met, Mr. Blackwood. Not officially. But I've been reviewing some interesting financial patterns connected to your family. I think you might be able to help me understand them better. I'm not sure what you mean. Don't you? A successful tech CEO whose family lives in unusual luxury despite underperforming businesses? Regular large transfers from anonymous sources? It's quite the puzzle. If you have questions about my family's finances, you should ask them. Oh, I have. They seem surprisingly uninformed about their own benefactor. But you strike me as someone who pays attention to details. I kept my voice steady. What exactly do you want, Mr. Blackwood? Just a conversation. Perhaps over coffee? I'm sure we have mutual interests to discuss. I'm very busy. I'm sure you are. Signing all those checks must be time-consuming. The silence stretched between us. He knew. Maybe not everything, but enough. Tomorrow. 4 p.m. Cafe Benny on Market Street. I named a place where I controlled the environment. I'll be there. Oh, and Miss Chen? Your secret is safe with me. For now. The line went dead. I stared at the phone, mind racing through options. 8 years of careful anonymity, about to be destroyed by an ambitious outsider who saw dollar signs where others saw family. I pulled up the Chen family trust documents again. Hundreds of transactions, millions of dollars, all leading back to accounts I controlled. If Nathan exposed this at the family meeting, the fallout would be catastrophic. Not because they'd be grateful, I'd given up that fantasy long ago, but because they'd be humiliated. Their pride, built on my money, would crumble. Another text from Dylan: Nathan's been asking about you all day. Victoria told him you're just the family disappointment who works in tech. He seemed weirdly interested in that answer. I typed back, let him ask. I'll handle it. Sophie, what's going on? This feels different. It is different. Someone's trying to expose the family's financial situation. Maybe that's not a bad thing. They should know what you've done for them. You don't understand, Dylan. They won't thank me. They'll hate me for it. They already treat you like you don't exist. What's the difference? The difference was control. Right now, I controlled the narrative. I was the invisible benefactor, the safety net they didn't know they had. If Nathan exposed me, I'd become something else, the puppet master they'd unknowingly danced for. Their pride would never recover. I spent the rest of the night preparing. Financial documents, legal protections, contingency plans. If Nathan wanted to play games with my family's security, he'd learn that I hadn't built a tech empire by being naive. By dawn, I'd made my decision. The family meeting would happen, but not the way Nathan planned. It was time to remind everyone that in the world of high-stakes finance, the person signing the checks always had the final say. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from an unknown number, likely Nathan again, looking forward to our coffee. I have a feeling this is the beginning of a very profitable relationship. I deleted the message and stared out at the city waking below. He thought he'd found a gold mine to exploit. What he'd actually found was a woman who'd spent 8 years perfecting the art of invisible power. Sunday's meeting would indeed be memorable. Just not in the way anyone expected. The Cafe Benny on Market Street hummed with afternoon energy, but I'd secured the private corner booth, the one with clear sightlines to both exits and no nearby tables. Nathan Blackwood arrived precisely at 4, his appearance as calculated as his financial inquiries. Armani suit, understated watch that whispered rather than shouted wealth, and eyes that missed nothing. Ms. Chen, he said, sliding into the opposite seat. Thank you for meeting me. Mr. Blackwood. I kept my expression neutral, channeling the boardroom demeanor that had intimidated bigger sharks than him. You were rather cryptic on the phone. Was I? I thought I was quite clear. He signaled the waitress, ordering an espresso without looking at the menu. A power play, showing he belonged anywhere. Your family has an interesting financial situation. All families do. Not all families have a mysterious benefactor funding their every whim while their businesses hemorrhage money. He pulled out a tablet, swiping through documents I recognized. Bank statements, transfer records, pattern analyses. Would you like to know what I've discovered? I have a feeling you're going to tell me regardless. His smile was sharp. The Chen Family Trust. Shell companies layered through Delaware, Nevada, and the Caymans. Monthly transfers totaling roughly $500,000, not including special purchases, cars, houses, business bailouts. All traceable to a single source if you know where to look. And you believe you know where to look? Chin Technologies International. More specifically, its CEO's personal holdings. He leaned back, studying my reaction. You've been funding your family anonymously for 8 years. The same family that treats you like a pariah. I sipped my coffee, buying time. That's quite an accusation. It's not an accusation. It's admiration. His shift in tone was calculated. Do you know what I see when I look at you? A brilliant woman who built an empire while her family played in sandcastles. Someone who understood that real power isn't about recognition, it's about control. Flattery, Mr. Blackwood? Truth. Which brings me to my proposition. He closed the tablet, his full attention on me. Your family is planning to hire me as their financial advisor. They want me to find their benefactor, secure the relationship, perhaps even increase the flow. They're terrified the money will stop. Are you trying to blackmail me? Blackmail is such an ugly word. I prefer strategic partnership. He leaned forward. Think about it. You want to remain anonymous. I want to build my career. We can help each other. Or I could simply stop the transfers. Let them figure out their own finances. You won't. His confidence was irritating. I've studied you, Sophia. Your charitable giving, your business practices, even your personal purchases. You have a pathological need to take care of people, even those who don't deserve it. It's your weakness. My phone buzzed. Dylan, emergency at Mom's. Nathan told Victoria he was meeting with you. She's losing it. I ignored it. What exactly are you proposing? I become the family's financial advisor. I report to them that their benefactor wishes to remain anonymous but is pleased with their progress. In exchange, you pay me a consulting fee, let's say 10% of whatever you give them. You want me to pay you to lie to my family? I want you to pay me to protect your secret. There's a difference. Another buzz. This time, Victoria, stay away from my boyfriend, you pathetic loser. Just because no one wants you doesn't mean you can steal what's mine. Nathan noticed my phone. Ah, Victoria's found out about our meeting. She has quite the temper. She has quite the boyfriend. Tell me, does she know you're here trying to extract money from her family's situation? She knows I'm brilliant at what I do. The details are irrelevant. He signaled for the check. You have 48 hours to decide. After that, I present my findings to the family. All of them. That sounds like a threat. It's a deadline. I believe in transparency. He stood, adjusting his cuffs. Oh, one more thing. The emergency family meeting? I've convinced them to make it a formal dinner. Black tie. Everyone who matters will be there. I wasn't invited. No, but you should be. After all, the guest of honor should attend their own party. His smile was predatory. 48 hours, Sophia. Choose wisely. He left me with the check, a petty power play that might have bothered me if I hadn't dealt with worse. I paid and drove back to my office, mind racing through options. Nathan had done his homework, but he'd made one crucial mistake. He thought my care for my family was weakness. He didn't understand that sometimes, love and strategy could be the same thing. My phone exploded with messages as soon as I reached my office. The family group chat I wasn't supposed to be part of, but Dylan had secretly added me to. Aunt Margaret, can someone explain why that tech girl was meeting with Nathan? Uncle Richard, probably trying to seduce him. Desperate women do desperate things. Victoria, I'm furious. How dare she? Mom, this is what happens when children don't know their place. Dylan, maybe Nathan was discussing business. She is a CEO. Victoria, of some stupid app company. Nathan deals with real money. I switched to my computer, pulling up financial records. In 48 hours, Nathan expected an answer. But I'd spent 8 years playing a longer game than he could imagine. Time to show him what real strategic thinking looked like. First, I called Marcus. I need you to set up a meeting with the Blackwood family's primary investors. Sophia, what are you planning? Due diligence. If someone wants to go into business with me, I should know everything about them. Next, I contacted my head of security. I need a comprehensive background check on Nathan Blackwood. Financial history, past relationships, any pressure points. How deep? Mariana Trench deep. By midnight, I had a different picture of Nathan Blackwood. Harvard MBA, yes, but on a scholarship after his family's fortune evaporated in bad investments. His past girlfriends all had one thing in common: family money and business connections he'd leveraged for personal gain. 3 had accused him of financial impropriety, though nothing proven. A con artist with a degree, hunting for his next mark. And he'd found my family. My phone rang. Dylan. Sophie, you need to know what's happening. Nathan's got everyone convinced that their benefactor is some tech billionaire who's been using them for tax breaks. He's telling them they're entitled to more money, that they've been shortchanged. Let me guess, he knows how to get it for them. For a fee. He's already got Victoria convinced he's their salvation. Mom and Dad are eating it up. Even Uncle Richard thinks he's a genius. And the family meeting? Sunday night. Nathan's promising to reveal everything about their benefactor. He says he'll have documents, proof of exploitation, the works. Dylan, I need you to trust me. Can you do that? Always. Good. Because Sunday night is going to be interesting. I hung up and made one final call. Patricia? I need you to prepare the Chin Technologies Emergency Board presentation. Which one? The hostile takeover defense. Full documentation. Miss Chen, is everything all right? It will be. I stared out at the city lights, thinking about the family that had rejected me, the money I'd given them, and the man who thought he could weaponize my generosity. Nathan wanted to play corporate hardball. He was about to learn why I'd survived in Silicon Valley when smarter, richer, better connected people had failed. Another message from Victoria. Nathan told me everything. You've been stalking our family's finances because you're jealous. Well, guess what? He's going to make sure you can never hurt us again. You'll always be nothing to us. I saved the message. Evidence for later. 2 days until the meeting. 2 days to turn Nathan's ambush into my revelation. The family thought they were gathering to secure their financial future. They were right, just not in the way they expected. For 8 years, I'd been content to remain invisible. But Nathan had forced my hand. The black sheep was about to return to the flock, and this time, I wouldn't be asking for acceptance. I'd be demanding it. My computer chimed with an encrypted message from my security team. The first results on Nathan were in, and they were even better than I'd hoped. Mr. Blackwood had secrets of his own, the kind that ambitious men never wanted exposed. Sunday couldn't come fast enough. Saturday morning arrived with a storm, both meteorological and digital. My security team's full report on Nathan Blackwood painted a picture of a man desperate enough to be dangerous. 3 fraud investigations quietly settled, 2 former business partners who'd mysteriously lost everything, and a trail of NDAs that suggested a pattern of exploitation. But it was the final detail that changed everything. Nathan wasn't working alone. He'd partnered with Robert Chin, my own cousin, who'd been feeding him information about the family's finances for months. Robert, who'd lost his trust fund in a failed restaurant venture. Robert, who'd been the most vocal about not inviting me to family events. I called Dylan. Change of plans. I need you to get me into tomorrow's dinner. Sophie, that's impossible. The guest list is locked, and Victoria's watching it like a hawk. Then we need a different approach. Is the catering still being handled by Marcelli's? Yeah, why? Because I own 60% of their company. They just don't know it yet. 2 hours later, I sat across from Antonio Marcelli, the documentation of my investments spread between us. His face had gone from confusion to shock to calculating respect. So you see, Antonio, I have a vested interest in tomorrow's event going perfectly. Ms. Chen, I had no idea. We've been catering your family's events for years. And you'll continue to do so. I just need a small favor. Add one name to your staff list for tomorrow. Someone I trust to oversee the service. Of course. Who? Me. His eyes widened. You want to work as a server at your own family's party? I want to ensure quality control. Full uniform, no one needs to know who I am. Ms. Chen, with respect, that seems necessary. Trust me. He agreed, as I knew he would. Money talks, but ownership screams. That afternoon, Nathan called. Time's running out, Sophia. Have you considered my offer? I have. And? I'll give you my answer tomorrow night. At the family dinner. Silence. Then, you're not on the guest list. Aren't I? Check again. What are you playing at? The same game you are, Nathan. Just with better cards. I hung up before he could respond. Let him worry. Let him wonder. Anxiety was a powerful destabilizer, and I needed him off balance. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. All financial transfers are now locked under new authentication protocols. No one can access the trust without your biometric approval. Good. Nathan might expose me, but he couldn't steal from me. I spent the rest of Saturday preparing. Not just logistics, but emotionally. Tomorrow, I'd serve champagne to people who deemed me unworthy of their company. I'd watch them toast their success with my money, in my house, wearing jewelry I'd bought them. The humiliation was intentional. I needed to feel it all one last time before everything changed. Sunday arrived gray and drizzling. Pathetic fallacy at its finest. I arrived at the Napa estate through the service entrance, my hair pulled back, wearing the crisp white shirt and black pants of the catering staff. Antonio handed me an apron without meeting my eyes. You're sure about this? Completely. The house hummed with preparation. Florists arranged centerpieces worth more than most people's monthly salaries. The champagne alone, Dom Perignon Rose, cost $50,000. All paid for by the anonymous benefactor they were gathering to discuss. I moved through the space like a ghost, invisible in the way only service staff could be. The family started arriving at 6, each entrance more dramatic than the last. Aunt Margaret in diamonds that caught the light like captured stars. Uncle Richard in a tuxedo that couldn't quite hide his expanding waistline. Victoria in a gown that screamed "Look at me," while Nathan, at her side, whispered in her ear. And then my parents. Mom in elegant navy, Dad in classic black, both wearing the carefully neutral expressions of people who'd learned to hide disappointment. They walked past me without a glance. 3 feet away, and I might as well have been furniture. Champagne? I offered, my voice pitched slightly lower. Thank you, Mom said absently, taking a glass without looking at me. I moved through the room, serving drinks and canapes, catching fragments of conversation. Nathan says our benefactor has been using us, Cousin Jennifer whispered. Taking tax breaks on our expenses. Robert confirmed it, Uncle James added. Apparently, we could sue for exploitation. I always knew something was off, Aunt Margaret declared. No one gives money without wanting something. At 7:30, Nathan called everyone to attention. He stood at the head of the dining room, confidence radiating from every pore. Victoria gazed at him with adoration while Robert smirked from his corner, already counting his finder's fee. "Thank you all for coming," Nathan began. "I know there's been concern about your family's financial situation. I'm here to provide clarity and, more importantly, solutions." He clicked a remote, and a presentation appeared on the wall, my shell companies, my transfers, all leading to a shadowy figure marked with a question mark. For 8 years, someone has been funding this family. Not out of generosity, but as part of an elaborate tax scheme. This person has saved millions by funneling money through you, claiming charitable deductions while maintaining control. Gasps around the room. Aunt Margaret clutched her pearls, the ones I'd bought her for Christmas 3 years ago. "But who would do such a thing?" Mom asked. Nathan's smile was triumphant. "Someone who knew your finances intimately. Someone with the technical knowledge to hide their tracks. Someone who's been watching you, studying you, using you." He clicked again. A photo appeared, my corporate headshot from Chin Technologies. "Your daughter, Sophia Chin." The silence was deafening. Every head turned, searching the room, but I was just another server, invisible against the wall. "That's impossible," Dad said flatly. "Sophie works for some startup. She doesn't have that kind of money." "Doesn't she?" Nathan pulled up Chin Technologies' valuation. "Her startup is worth $2.8 billion. She owns 45% of it. Your daughter isn't just rich, she's one of the wealthiest women in tech." The room erupted. Denials, accusations, confusion. I set down my serving tray and walked to the corner where Antonio had placed a garment bag. Inside was my real outfit for the evening, a simple but impeccably cut black dress. I changed quickly in the powder room, applied lipstick with steady hands, and let my hair fall loose. When I walked back into the dining room, the chaos stopped. "Hello, family," I said quietly. "I believe you've been discussing me?" Victoria found her voice first. "You conniving bitch. You've been spying on us." "Spying?" I laughed, surprising myself with how calm I sounded. "I've been supporting you. Every payment on this house, every car in your driveways, every failed business venture bailed out, that was me." "Why?" Mom's voice was small, confused. "Why would you do that?" "Because despite everything, despite the missed invitations, the cruel comments, the constant reminders that I wasn't good enough, you're still my family. And I couldn't watch you fail." Nathan stepped forward. "This is exactly what I warned you about." "She's been controlling you, manipulating, Mr. Blackwood," I interrupted, pulling out my phone. "Before you continue, you should know I've been busy too. Tell me, does Victoria know about your arrangement with Melissa Fontaine? The one where you extracted $3 million from her family before moving on? Or perhaps she'd like to hear about the fraud investigation in Boston?" His face paled. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" I projected documents onto the wall, replacing his presentation. 3 settled lawsuits, 2 bankruptcy filings traced to your financial advice, and a particularly interesting email thread where you discuss, what was the phrase, bleeding the Chin cash cow dry. Victoria stepped away from him. "Nathan?" "There's more," I continued. "Robert, would you like to explain your involvement? The $50,000 Nathan promised you for inside information?" Robert's smirk vanished. "I don't know what you're talking about." "No? Then I suppose this recording of your conversation last Tuesday is fake?" I played the audio, Robert's voice filling the room, my cousin's pathetic. "She'll never see it coming. Just make sure I get my cut when you take them for everything." The family turned on them like sharks scenting blood. Nathan tried to salvage the situation, but I wasn't done. Here's what's going to happen, I said, voice cutting through the chaos. Nathan, you're leaving. Now. If you ever contact my family again, every document I have goes to the FBI. Robert, the same applies to you. You can't, Nathan started. I can. I did. Security is already outside. On cue, 2 men in suits entered. These gentlemen will escort you out. As they left, Nathan turned back. You think you've won? They'll never accept you now that they know. Maybe not. But at least now it's honest. The door closed behind them, leaving me alone with my family. The people I'd supported, saved, enabled. They stared at me like I was a stranger. Which, I realized, I was. The silence stretched like a taut wire after Nathan and Robert's departure. 23 family members stood frozen in the dining room, staring at me as if I'd materialized from thin air. The champagne in their glasses, my champagne, seemed to mock the moment. Uncle Richard broke first. This is absurd. Sophie doesn't have billions of dollars. She fixes computers. I build technology companies, I corrected quietly. There's a difference. You've been lying to us for 8 years, Aunt Margaret's voice shook with rage. Playing us for fools. I've been protecting you for 8 years. You're the ones who decided I wasn't worth knowing. Protecting? Victoria laughed bitterly. You've been controlling us. Every decision we made, you were there, pulling strings like we were your puppets. Every decision you made was funded by me. The strings were already there, I just made sure they didn't strangle you. Mom stepped forward, her face a masterpiece of conflicted emotions. Why didn't you tell us? When you started making money, why hide it? I tried. The words came out harder than intended. Christmas, 8 years ago. I came here excited to share my success, to help everyone. Do you remember what you said? She flinched. You laughed. All of you. Aunt Margaret called me adorable for thinking I could help. Uncle James said tech money wasn't real money. Victoria spent the entire dinner mocking my little startup dreams. So I helped anyway, just without the humiliation. That doesn't give you the right, Uncle Richard started. To what? Give you money? Save your businesses? Keep you in the lifestyle you couldn't afford? I pulled up my phone, scrolling through records. Richard, remember when your import business was failing? That mysterious investor who saved it? Me. Margaret, when your husband's gambling debts threatened your home? The law firm that negotiated a settlement? Paid for by me. Victoria, your boutique that somehow never turns a profit but never closes? I cover the losses. Each revelation landed like a physical blow. I watched my family crumble under the weight of truth, their carefully constructed self-images shattering. You had no right, Dad finally spoke, his voice controlled fury. No right to interfere without our knowledge. I had every right. It was my money. It was our lives. Lives I made possible. The calm I'd maintained finally cracked. Every single thing you're proud of, every achievement you celebrate, every moment of security you've felt for the past 8 years, I gave you that. And I did it knowing you'd never thank me, never include me, never even acknowledge I existed. So what now? Cousin Jennifer asked. You expose us and expect gratitude? I expect nothing. I've learned that lesson. You're cutting us off. It wasn't a question. Uncle James had the calculating look of a man watching his future evaporate. That depends entirely on you. Blackmail? Aunt Margaret spat the word. Choice. The same choice you've given me every year when my invitation mysteriously got lost. The same choice you made when you decided I wasn't successful enough, polished enough, conventional enough to be part of this family. My phone buzzed. Marcus, texting, all systems ready. Your call. I looked around the room, memorizing faces. My mother's barely controlled tears. My father's rigid disappointment. Cousins who'd borrowed my money while blocking me on social media. Aunts and uncles who'd cashed my checks while telling everyone I was the family failure. You have 1 week, I announced. 1 week to decide what kind of family we're going to be. Either we move forward with honesty and inclusion, or the funding stops. All of it. The mortgage payments, the business support, the medical bills, the school tuitions, everything. You can't just, Victoria started. I can. I have. The transfers are already frozen pending my decision. This is cruel, Mom whispered. No, Mom. Cruel is finding out your daughter built an empire and never telling her you're proud. Cruel is funding parties you're not invited to. Cruel is being told you're not good enough by people living off your success. Dylan, who'd been silent until now, stepped forward. She's right. You all know she's right. We've treated her like garbage while taking her money. You knew? Dad turned on him. I suspected. Unlike the rest of you, I actually paid attention to my sister. This is ridiculous, Uncle Richard blustered. We don't need her money. We've been successful long before, have you? I pulled up financial projections on my phone, casting them to the wall screen. Without my support, you'll lose the house in 3 months. Your business will fold in 6. Margaret, without the monthly supplements, your husband's medical bills will bankrupt you within a year. Should I continue? The numbers were brutal in their clarity. 8 years of dependency laid bare in charts and graphs. You've made us weak, Aunt Margaret said quietly. Dependent. You were already failing. I just made sure you fell into a net instead of onto concrete. So generous, Victoria's sarcasm could have etched glass. Saint Sophia, saving us all. I never claimed to be a saint. I'm a businesswoman who made the poor decision to mix family with finance. But that changes now. What do you want? Dad asked, ever practical. What are your terms? Simple. I want to be part of this family. Really part of it. Not just the name on checks, but invited, included, respected. I want apologies, real ones, not the kind you practice in mirrors. I want acknowledgement of what I've done and who I've become. And I want it all in writing. In writing? Mom looked appalled. I've learned not to trust verbal agreements with family. The room erupted again. Accusations, denials, blame, 8 years of resentment and entitlement boiling over. I stood in the center of it all, finally visible, finally unavoidable. My phone rang. Patricia, which meant emergency. Excuse me, I said, stepping into the hallway. Ms. Chen, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's a situation. Nathan Blackwood is on Bloomberg News. He's giving an interview about corporate manipulation in tech families. Of course he was. How bad? He's not naming names yet, but he's describing a situation that sounds very familiar. Our legal team is on standby. Tell them to prepare cease and desist orders. And Patricia? Clear my calendar for the next week. I have family business to handle. I returned to find the family in heated debate. Factions had formed, those who thought they could survive without me, those who knew they couldn't, and those still in denial about the whole situation. I have to go, I announced. Nathan's trying to take this public, and I need to protect all of us from that exposure. You have 1 week. Dylan has my contact information when you're ready to discuss terms. Sophie, wait, Mom called out, but I was already moving. I paused at the door, looking back at the family I'd loved too much to let fail. You know what the saddest part is? All I ever wanted was to belong here. The money was just my way of staying connected to people who'd disconnected from me. Outside, the rain had stopped, leaving the air clean and sharp. My Tesla waited in the driveway, no longer hidden, no longer apologetic. As I drove away, I saw them in the rearview mirror, crowded at the windows, watching the family disappointment leave in a car worth more than most of their houses. My phone exploded with messages before I even reached the highway. I turned it off. They'd had 8 years to reach out. They could wait a week for my response. The next morning, Bloomberg ran Nathan's interview with the headline, "When Family Money Meets Tech Billions, a Cautionary Tale." He was careful not to name names, but the implications were clear. My legal team shut it down within hours, but the damage was done. The story was out there, waiting for someone to connect the dots. Marcus called while I was reviewing the cease and desist orders. The family trust accounts are seeing unusual activity. Several family members are trying to access funds. Lock everything down. No access without my personal authorization. Already done. Sophia, are you sure about this? Cutting them off? I'm not cutting them off. I'm renegotiating terms. With family? Especially with family. They've treated our relationship like a one-way ATM for 8 years. Time they learned that even ATMs require a valid card. The week that followed was a masterclass in family dynamics under pressure. Alliances formed and fractured. Cousins who hadn't spoken in years suddenly united against the common threat of poverty. Aunts who'd competed for status now competed for my favor. Dylan kept me updated with texts that ranged from hilarious to heartbreaking. Uncle Richard just suggested they could sue you for emotional damages. Aunt Margaret is convinced you've been possessed by evil spirits. Mom hasn't stopped crying. Victoria tried to hire a hacker to access the accounts. The hacker turned out to be one of your employees. Dad's been in his study for 3 days with a calculator and a bottle of whiskey. By Thursday, the cracks were showing. Jennifer's husband called, begging for just 1 month's payment to cover their mortgage. Uncle James's business partner reached out, worried about missed payments. The reality of their dependence was sinking in, and with it, the recognition of what I'd actually done for them. But I held firm. 8 years of rejection couldn't be erased with a few days of panic. They needed to understand that my money came with my presence, or it didn't come at all. Friday morning brought the first break. Mom called. Sophie, her voice was different. Smaller. Can we talk? Just us? Tomorrow, I said. Cafe Benny. 2 o'clock. The place where you met Nathan? Yes. I'll be there. 1 down. 22 to go. Saturday arrived with unseasonable warmth, mocking the cold front that had settled over my family. I reached Cafe Benny early, securing the same corner booth where Nathan had tried to manipulate me just days ago. Mom arrived 15 minutes late, looking like she'd aged 5 years in 1 week. Sophie, she sat down carefully, as if the chair might break. Thank you for seeing me. You're my mother. I'd always see you. Her face crumpled at that. Have I been such a terrible mother that you had to hide your success from me? You weren't terrible. You were absent. Emotionally, I mean. Because you didn't fit the mold. She said it like a confession. You were supposed to marry well, join the country club, have beautiful children. Instead, you buried yourself in computers and spoke a language we didn't understand. So you stopped trying to understand. Yes. The admission cost her. When you started making money, real money, why didn't you force us to see? Why the secrecy? Because I'm weak. My own confession. I couldn't bear another rejection. It was easier to help from the shadows than risk being laughed at again. We wouldn't have, Mom. I cut her off gently. You would have. Remember when I offered to help with Aunt Margaret's mortgage? She called me adorable and said I should focus on finding a husband instead of pretending to be a man in tech. She winced. Margaret's traditional. Margaret's broke. Or she would be without my traditional male money keeping her afloat. We sat in silence while the waitress brought our drinks, tea for Mom, espresso for me. Old habits. Your father's been going through financial records, she said finally. 8 years of deposits, purchases, bailouts. The numbers are staggering. It's just money. No, it's not. She leaned forward. It's love. Twisted, hidden, complicated love, but love nonetheless. You gave us everything while we gave you nothing. You gave me life. And then acted like we regretted it. The raw honesty between us was foreign territory. We'd spent decades speaking in subtext and implications. This directness felt dangerous. What happens now? She asked. That depends on the family. I've been very clear about my terms. They're struggling with it. The pride, the shame, the fear, it's a toxic cocktail. Richard's convinced he can rebuild without you. Margaret's planning to sell her jewelry. Victoria's. She paused. Victoria's what? Broken. Nathan left her when he realized there was no money to extract. She found out about his other women, his schemes. She's been locked in her room since Wednesday. Despite everything, I felt a pang of sympathy. Victoria had been cruel, but she'd also been used. And Dad? Your father is reconsidering everything. He found the scholarship funds you set up. The ones for employees' children at his company. The anonymous donations to his alma mater. The medical equipment you donated to the hospital where he had his surgery. All in his name, though he never knew. He wasn't supposed to know. Why do that for someone who dismissed you? Because he's my father. Because love isn't conditional, even when acceptance is. She started crying then. Not the delicate tears of social embarrassment, but real, ugly sobs that shook her shoulders. I handed her napkins and waited. We failed you, she managed. We had this brilliant, generous, incredible daughter, and we threw her away because she didn't match our stupid expectations. I'm not thrown away. I'm right here. For how long? How long before you realize we don't deserve your forgiveness? I realized that years ago. I'm still here. My phone buzzed. Marcus, urgent situation. Several family members at Chin Technologies demanding to see you. I showed Mom the message. She paled. They're panicking, she said. The reality hit this week. James's business partner is threatening to pull out. Richard's creditors are calling. Margaret's husband needs his medication. They're desperate. Desperate enough to apologize? To change? To actually include me in the family? I don't know. Her honesty was brutal. Some are. Some are just desperate for the money to continue. Then they'll be disappointed. We left together, driving separately to Chin Technologies. The scene in the lobby was chaos. Uncle Richard arguing with security, Aunt Margaret dramatically claiming a heart condition, various cousins recording everything on their phones. Enough, I said, voice cutting through the noise. Security, please escort everyone to conference room A. Sophie, this is outrageous, Uncle Richard started. No, Uncle. What's outrageous is showing up at my company to throw a tantrum because your free ride ended. The conference room wasn't designed for family drama, but it would have to do. 21 family members crammed in, their designer clothes and entitled attitudes clashing with the minimalist tech decor. You wanted to see me, I said, taking the head of the table. Here I am. We need access to the accounts, James said without preamble. This is causing real damage. To your businesses that I've been propping up? Yes, I imagine it is. This is cruel and unusual punishment, Aunt Margaret clutched her chest. My husband needs his medication. Your husband's medication is covered by insurance. You need the money for your lifestyle. There's a difference. How can you be so cold? Cousin Jennifer demanded. 8 years of practice. You all taught me well. Sophie, Dad spoke for the first time. What you've done, the money, the support, we understand now. But this ultimatum, it's beneath you. Is it? You've excluded me from every family event for 8 years. I've simply returned the favor with the family finances. So this is revenge? Victoria's voice was hoarse. This is balance. You wanted me out of your lives. I obliged. The fact that my money didn't leave with me was my choice, not your right. We're sorry, someone said. I couldn't tell who in the chorus of voices that followed. Apologies tumbled over each other, desperate and hollow. Stop. I held up my hand. Sorry because you need my money isn't sorry. It's just negotiation. Then what do you want? Richard slammed his hand on the table. You've made your point. You're rich, we're dependent. You win. What now? Now you decide if you want a relationship with me or just my bank account. Because you can't have one without the other anymore. That's blackmail, Margaret hissed. That's family. At least, it's the only kind of family you've shown me. Transactional. Conditional. Based on what I can provide rather than who I am. Dylan entered quietly, slipping me a folder. The documents you requested. I opened it, spreading papers across the table. These are contracts. Sign them, and the funding continues with new terms. Don't sign, and you're on your own. Contracts? For family? Dad looked appalled. You've treated me like a service provider for 8 years. I'm simply formalizing the arrangement. They reached for the papers with shaking hands. The terms were simple but non-negotiable: monthly family dinners with mandatory attendance. Equal inclusion in all family events. Acknowledgement of my contributions in any public setting. Respect for my career and choices. Basic things any family member should expect, but I'd learned not to assume. This is insane, Uncle Richard threw the papers down. I won't be bound by a contract to treat my own niece with decency. Then don't. Walk away. Build your business without my help. You managed before I had money. We were failing before you had money, James said quietly. All of us. Too proud to admit it, but failing. I know. I watched. That's why I started helping. Why? Margaret's voice broke. Why help people who treated you so badly? Because that's what family does. But I'm tired of being the only one who remembers that. The room fractured. Some signed immediately, desperate. Others hesitated, pride warring with necessity. A few, like Richard, refused outright. Those who sign will have their accounts reinstated Monday morning, I announced. Those who don't, I wish you the best. Sophie, Mom stood. I'll sign, but not because of the money. Because I want my daughter back. I was never gone, Mom. You just stopped looking. One by one, most signed. 16 out of 23. The holdouts, Richard, Margaret, and a few cousins, left in fury, promising lawsuits and retribution. Let them go, Dylan advised. They'll either come around or learn to live within their means. And the rest of us? Dad asked, contract signed and pushed across the table. The rest of us start over. No more secrets, no more anonymous gifts. You'll know exactly where the money comes from and why. And I'll know exactly where I stand with each of you. It'll be awkward, Jennifer said. It's been awkward for 8 years. At least now it's honest. The meeting dissolved slowly, family members trickling out with their signed contracts and complicated emotions. Victoria lingered, her usually perfect appearance disheveled. I'm sorry, she said quietly. Not for the money. For everything else. Nathan showed me the messages I sent you. They were cruel. Yes, they were. I was jealous. You were always so sure of yourself, so independent. I needed everyone's approval, and you didn't seem to need anyone's. I needed it. I just learned to live without it. She signed her contract with a shaky hand. Can we maybe get coffee sometime? Without the family drama? We'll see. When the room finally emptied, only Dylan remained. My little brother, the only one who'd never needed a contract to treat me like family. You okay? He asked. I don't know. I got what I wanted, acknowledgement, inclusion, respect. But it feels hollow? Like you had to buy it? Exactly. Give it time. Real relationships might grow from this forced beginning. Or they might not. Or they might not, he agreed. But at least now you'll know for sure. I looked at the stack of signed contracts. 16 family members who'd chosen money over pride. Was it a victory or another form of defeat? My phone buzzed. A text from Mom, first family dinner is next Sunday. I'm cooking your favorite, lasagna. Please come. You'll go? Dylan asked, reading over my shoulder. I'll go. But I'm bringing my own wine. I know exactly how much they usually spend on it. He laughed, and for a moment, it felt like we were kids again. Before the money, before the rejection, before it all got so complicated. But we weren't kids, and this wasn't a simple reconciliation. This was a business arrangement dressed up as family healing. The real test would come when the contracts expired, when they no longer needed my money. Would they still want my presence then? Only time would tell. But for now, I had what I'd paid for, a seat at the table I'd been financing for 8 years. The price? Just my dignity, my secrets, and the last of my illusions about unconditional love. In Silicon Valley, we called that a bargain. The first official family dinner arrived with all the fanfare of a corporate merger. I stood outside my parents' house, not the Napa estate, but their actual home in Palo Alto, holding a bottle of wine worth more than their monthly mortgage payment. The irony wasn't lost on me, I'd been paying that mortgage for 6 years. Dylan opened the door before I could knock. You came. Contractually obligated, I said, then softened. But yes, I came. The house smelled like childhood, Mom's lasagna, Dad's cologne, the particular mixture of furniture polish and fresh flowers that she'd maintained for 30 years. But the atmosphere was pure boardroom tension. Sophie's here, Dylan announced unnecessarily. Everyone was already staring. 16 family members arranged around the extended dining table like a Last Supper. The 7 who'd refused to sign were conspicuously absent, their empty chairs screaming louder than their protests. Sophia, Dad stood, formal as a maitre d'. Welcome. Thank you for having me. The words felt absurd. This was technically my house. Mom bustled over, taking the wine with nervous hands. Oh, you didn't need to, Chateau Margaux 2010? I know what you usually serve, I said quietly. Thought I'd contribute openly for once. The silence that followed could have frozen hell. Everyone suddenly fascinated by their place settings, the wallpaper, anything but the woman who'd been bankrolling their lives. Well, Cousin Jennifer forced brightness into her voice. Should we eat? Dinner unfolded like a badly rehearsed play. Pass the salad. Lovely weather. How about those giants? Each word carefully chosen to avoid the minefield of our actual situation. I'd attended more natural conversations at hostile takeover meetings. Finally, Uncle James cracked. This is ridiculous. We're all thinking it. Sophie, you've been paying for our lives. We've been ungrateful assholes. There. Can we move forward now? James! Aunt Linda hissed. What? We signed contracts to have dinner with our own family member. If that's not rock bottom, I don't know what is. Rock bottom was when you were about to lose your house, I said calmly, cutting my lasagna. This is just acknowledgement. Do you hate us? Victoria asked suddenly. I would. I do hate myself a little. I considered the question. I don't hate you. Hate requires energy I've spent on building my company. I'm disappointed. In all of us. You for obvious reasons. Me for enabling it. You were trying to help, Mom protested. I was trying to buy something that shouldn't have a price tag. Your acceptance. Your love. Your basic acknowledgement that I exist and matter. You do matter, Dad said firmly. We just lost sight of that. When? When I chose MIT over Stanford? When I wore jeans to cotillion? When I dated women instead of men? When exactly did I stop mattering? Another silence. This one heavier, loaded with years of small rejections. When you succeeded without us, Jennifer said quietly. We had this image of who you should be, and when you became something else, something better, we couldn't handle it. It was easier to diminish you than examine ourselves. That's the first honest thing anyone said tonight. I raised my glass. To uncomfortable truths. A few glasses rose hesitantly to meet mine. The clink of crystal sounded like breaking ice. I have a confession, Mom said. I've been reading about Chin Technologies. About what you've built. I don't understand most of it, but the parts one do. Sophie, it's incredible. Don't. I held up my hand. Don't praise me now because you know I'm rich. If the company failed tomorrow, would you still be proud? Yes. Dad's voice was strong. I've been an ass, but yes. You built something from nothing. You employed thousands of people. You changed an industry. That matters more than money. Does it? Because you've had 8 years to Google me. My success isn't new, just your awareness of it. We were cowards, Uncle James said bluntly. Too proud to admit we'd misjudged you, too ashamed to reach out after how we'd acted. The money just made it worse. Every anonymous gift felt like a slap, deserved, but still painful. You knew? We suspected. Things too convenient, too perfectly timed. But confirming it meant confronting our own behavior. The meal continued with fits and starts of conversation. Some genuine attempts at connection, some falling back on safe topics. Victoria asked about my work, actually listening to the answer. Jennifer's husband, quiet until now, asked thoughtful questions about tech innovations. Dad shared stories about young Sophie, the girl who'd taken apart every electronic device in the house. Remember when she rewired the doorbell to play the Star Wars theme? Dylan laughed. Mom was mortified when the pastor came calling. I was 8, I defended. And it was technically impressive. It was, Dad agreed. I should have encouraged that instead of buying you dolls you never played with. Small revelations peppered the evening. Moments of genuine connection between the awkwardness. Not healing, we were too damaged for that, but perhaps the beginning of something. As dessert arrived, tiramisu, my favorite, Mom cleared her throat. I have something to say. Sophia, I've been seeing a therapist. To understand why I failed you so badly. She says I projected my own fears onto you. I was raised to believe women needed protection, needed traditional roles. You terrified me because you were so independent. I thought I was saving you from disappointment. Instead, I became the disappointment. Mom. I started, but she continued. Let me finish. I can't undo 8 years. I can't take back the parties you weren't invited to, the celebrations you missed, the family moments stolen from you. But I can promise to do better. We all can. That's what those contracts really mean, isn't it? A chance to do better. Tears threatened, mine and hers. Around the table, others nodded, some crying openly. I just wanted to belong, I admitted. The money was never about control. It was about staying connected to people who'd disconnected from me. We see that now, Victoria said. Nathan, awful as he was, made us see it. You gave everything and asked for nothing except inclusion. We couldn't even give you that. But you can now? I challenged. When I'm no longer just weird Sophie but billionaire Sophia? How do I trust this isn't just about the money? You don't, Dad said simply. Trust is earned. We haven't earned yours. But maybe, if you give us time, we can. The contracts, Jennifer began. Forget the contracts, I interrupted. They were just to get us here. What happens next is up to us. Really? James looked skeptical. You'd continue supporting us without legal obligation? I supported you for 8 years without recognition. Legal obligation is a step up. Nervous laughter rippled through the room. The ice was breaking, slowly, painfully, but breaking nonetheless. After dessert, instead of the usual quick dispersal, people lingered. Victoria pulled out her phone, showing me pictures from her boutique, the one I'd been funding. I want to make it profitable, she said. Not just a vanity project. Will you help? Really help, not just write checks. If you're serious, yes. Jennifer joined us. I've been thinking about starting a non-profit. For women in tech. Could you advise? One by one, they approached. Not for money, but for connection. Uncle James wanted to discuss sustainable business practices. Dad had questions about innovation in traditional industries. Even cousins who'd barely acknowledged my existence suddenly saw me as more than an ATM. It should have felt vindicating. Instead, it felt sad. All these years of expertise, insights, and experiences they'd missed because I didn't fit their mold. Don't overwhelm her, Dylan intervened, seeing my expression. She's not going anywhere. Right, Sophie? Right, I confirmed, though part of me wanted to run. Emotional availability was harder than writing checks. As the evening wound down, Mom pulled me aside. Will you come next week? Without a contract? Will I be invited? Every week for the rest of my life if you'll have us. We'll see, I said, but hugged her. Real embrace, not the air kisses we'd perfected. 1 week at a time. I left with a Tupperware container of leftover lasagna and a tangle of emotions. The drive home was quiet, just me and my thoughts and the weight of possibility. My phone buzzed with texts throughout the night. Victoria, thank you for giving us another chance. James, I meant what I said. Let's talk business for real. Mom, I love you. I should have said it more. I love you. But it was Dylan's message that made me cry. Proud of you for coming tonight. Proud of you for everything. Always have been, just too stupid to say it. Change doesn't happen overnight. Trust doesn't rebuild with one dinner. But for the first time in 8 years, I felt the possibility of something beyond transaction. Something that might, eventually, resemble family. The contracts were still in my safe, legal protection against future rejection. But maybe, just maybe, we wouldn't need them. Time would tell. Time and lasagna and the slow, painful work of healing what money couldn't fix. I pulled into my garage and sat in the dark for a moment. Tomorrow, I'd wake up to the same company, the same responsibilities, the same wealth that had both blessed and cursed me. But tonight, for the first time in years, I'd had dinner with my family. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't even particularly comfortable. But it was a start. And in both business and family, sometimes a start is all you need. 3 weeks of family dinners had created a fragile rhythm. Not comfort, exactly, but a tentative dance of reconnection. Then Richard returned, and with him, the storm we'd all been waiting for. I was in my office reviewing quarterly projections when Patricia buzzed. "Miss Chen, your Uncle Richard is here. He doesn't have an appointment, but he's insistent. Send him in." Richard entered like a man preparing for battle, shoulders squared, jaw set, pride armoring every inch of him. He'd lost weight, his expensive suit hanging loose, and there was a desperation in his eyes that made me wary. "Sophie." He said my name like it tasted bitter. "Uncle Richard. I heard your business finally folded. Don't gloat. It's unbecoming." "I'm not gloating. I'm stating a fact. Sit down before you fall down." He collapsed into the chair across from my desk, and for a moment, I saw past the bluster to the broken man beneath. "I need your help. You refused to sign the contract. You made your choice. That contract was humiliation disguised as help. That contract was basic human decency with terms and conditions. The fact that you found it humiliating says more about you than me." His hands clenched. "I've been your uncle for 35 years. Doesn't that count for something? You've been my relative for 35 years. There's a difference between relative and family, as you've made abundantly clear. So you'll let me lose everything? My house, my reputation, your wife already left you." I kept my voice neutral. "Margaret moved in with her sister last week. She signed the contract, by the way. Her medical bills are covered." The information hit him like a physical blow. She signed? Most of them did. They chose connection over pride. You chose pride over everything. I built that business from nothing. No, Uncle Richard. You inherited it from Grandpa and ran it into the ground. I've seen the books, 8 years of them. Every bad decision, every shortcut, every ego-driven expansion that hemorrhaged money. I kept you afloat far longer than any investor would have. I didn't ask for your help. No, you just took it. Anonymously. Happily. Until you found out it came from me." He stood abruptly, pacing to the window. The San Francisco skyline stretched before us, a monument to ambition and innovation, everything he'd mocked me for pursuing. "Do you know what it's like?" His voice was quieter now. "To watch your niece, little Sophie, who used to beg me to push her on the swings, become everything you couldn't? To realize your success was an illusion while hers was real?" "No," I admitted. "But I know what it's like to be told you're not enough by the people who should love you most. To build an empire while being excluded from family photos. To sign checks for people who won't return your calls. I was wrong." The words seemed to physically hurt him. "Is that what you want to hear?" I was wrong, and jealous, and proud, and stupid. I don't want to hear anything. I want to see change. What if I can't change? What if I'm too old, too set in my ways? Then you'll face the consequences of your choices, just like I faced the consequences of mine." He turned back, and I saw tears, something I'd never seen from proud Uncle Richard. "I'm scared, Sophie. I'm 63 years old, and I'm about to lose everything." "You're not losing everything. You're losing things. There's a difference. Easy for you to say from your ivory tower. My ivory tower built from nights coding until my eyes bled? From pitches where men like you told me I'd never succeed? From every family gathering I wasn't invited to but still paid for? Yes, Uncle Richard, so easy. The intercom buzzed. Ms. Chen, your 2 o'clock is here. Give me 5 minutes, Patricia. Richard straightened his tie, a gesture so familiar it hurt. I'll go. Wait. I opened my desk drawer, pulling out a single document. This isn't the family contract. This is a business proposal. I'll invest in a new venture, something sustainable, something that plays to your actual strengths, not your ego. You'll report to my CFO, follow our business plan, and build something real. In exchange, you'll have income, purpose, and a chance to salvage your reputation. You want me to work for you? I want you to work with me. There's a difference. He stared at the document. Why? After everything? Because you're right. You are my uncle. 35 years of wrong doesn't erase that. But this is business, not family. Can you handle that distinction? What about the family dinners? The contract? That's separate. This offer stands regardless of whether you ever acknowledge me as family again. But Richard? This is your last chance. Burn this bridge, and I won't rebuild it. He took the document with shaking hands. I need to think. You have 48 hours. After that, the offer expires. He moved toward the door, then paused. Sophie? That Christmas 8 years ago, when you offered to help? I laughed the loudest because I was the most threatened. You were everything I'd told myself a Chin woman couldn't be. I'm sorry. Then he was gone, leaving me with the echo of an apology 8 years too late. The afternoon blurred with meetings, but my mind kept returning to Richard's broken pride. Was I being cruel, offering salvation with strings? Or was I finally setting boundaries that should have existed all along? Dylan called as I was leaving the office. Heard Richard came to see you. News travels fast. Mom's worried you were too hard on him. Mom's worried I wasn't hard enough. She can't decide if I'm being vindictive or generous. What do you think? I think I'm tired of being the only adult in this family. Fair. Sunday dinner might be interesting. If he shows up. He'll show. His pride's broken, but his survival instinct isn't. That evening, I found myself at the Napa estate. Not for a party, those were still too fraught, but because Victoria had asked for help with her boutique's books. We sat in the kitchen where I'd once served champagne as invisible help, spreadsheets between us. These numbers are worse than I thought, I said gently. I know. I've been playing dress up with your money. She laughed bitterly. Nathan was right about one thing, I'm a dilettante. Nathan was a con artist who wouldn't recognize truth if it invoiced him. You're untrained, not incapable. There's a difference. Can it be saved? The boutique? With work. Your self-respect? That's up to you. She nodded, making notes as I outlined a recovery plan. Watching her focus, I saw glimpses of the cousin who'd once been my best friend, before money and status poisoned everything. Sophie, she said suddenly. What would have happened if you'd never made money? Would you have kept trying with us? I don't know. Maybe I'd have given up, moved on, built a life without you all. Would that have been better? Simpler, certainly. Better? I'll let you know when I figure it out. My phone buzzed. Richard had submitted the signed business proposal, not even taking the full 48 hours. Attached was a note, I'm tired of drowning. Teach me to swim. Good news? Victoria asked, seeing my expression. Complicated news. Richard's coming aboard. As family? As business. Family's still to be determined. You're compartmentalizing us. It wasn't an accusation, just an observation. I'm protecting myself. And you. Mixing money and family created this mess. Maybe keeping them separate will clean it up. Or maybe it'll always be messy. Maybe that's what family is. Sunday arrived with Richard in attendance, both at dinner and in spirit. He sat stiffly, clearly uncomfortable, but he sat. When Mom served the roast, he even managed to compliment it without sounding strangled. I wanted to announce, he said during a lull in conversation, that I'll be working with Chin Technologies on a new venture. Sophie's giving me a second chance professionally. Just professionally? Mom asked pointedly. One step at a time, I intervened. Richard and I are rebuilding from the ground up. With contracts and corporate structure, he added, and for the first time, there was no bitterness in it. Maybe that's what we needed all along, clear terms. To clear terms, James raised his glass. Others followed, even Richard. The toast felt like a turning point. Not healing, we were months or years from that, but acknowledgement that healing was possible. After dinner, Richard approached me privately. The business plan you created, it's good. Better than anything I'd have developed. You'd have gotten there. You just needed to stop trying to be Grandpa and start being yourself. Grandpa would have hated everything about your success, he said quietly. Young, female, tech-focused, unconventional. He'd have disowned you. Good thing he's not here, then. But we were. And we acted like he would have. I'm sorry for that too. 2 apologies in 1 week. Progress, even if painful. As the evening ended, I stood on the terrace overlooking the vineyard, my vineyard, technically, though I'd never claimed it. The family I'd bought gathered behind me, their voices mixing with clinks of coffee cups and scraping chairs. Regrets? Dylan joined me, handing me a glass of wine. Many. But not about the money. Maybe about the timing, the secrecy, the enabling. But not about helping? No. Even knowing how it played out, I'd do it again. Maybe that makes me pathetic. Or human.